Now, this is exactly how I pick the best shares, or you call them stocks, to buy. You know what? I usually buy stocks. Remember, there's a video that I made to you and I said I usually buy shares maybe worth like 2,000, 3,000 each and every month and something. Depends. Sometimes I can even buy less than 1,000. Depends. You know, the math differs in terms of the income and what have you. So the point is, shares are a good way of actually investing, not for short time, but for longer period of time, especially if you're not employed by the government. Because if you are, then you have something called the pension. I don't know whether you guys have that thing in your country, and I don't know how effective it is. By the way, pension will never solve all your problems after you retire. So it's good to have some other extra pensions that you've actually saved for yourself. Now, today on this video, and I'm giving you the authority to steal the idea that I use as far as the shares buying are concerned. What do I consider before buying shares of company A, B, or C, or something of sort? What are some of the things that I consider? Okay, now, by the way, before I share this video, go ahead and like the video. Make sure that you subscribe if you have never subscribed, because here we talk about investments. My name is Joseph. If you're watching me for the first time, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your eyeballs, okay? Leave me a comment in the comment sections. Now, first thing that I consider before buying a share is this. I usually ask myself, first of all, you have to ask, how much do I have? That's the question. That's the most primary question that you ask yourself. How much do I have? Oh my goodness, the pen. Okay, here we go. How much do I have? How much do I have? How much do I have as of now? Say I have 2,000 Kenyan shillings that I want to buy shares with that, okay? Now, the point is this, I have 2,000. Therefore, in whatever I'm actually looking for example, in Kenya, we have 63 PLCs, meaning we have 63 public listed companies that you can be able to buy shares. Okay, now the question is, I have 2,000 with me. Okay, now the question is, obviously I cannot qualify to buy shares of each and every company in this. For example, we have a company that has one share at around 412,000. If you multiply this by minimum of 100, this one is talk about the language of 41,000 and thereabout. But I have 2,000, so by default I'm disqualified to buy shares from that company. Therefore, I go check a list of the companies that I qualify that I can be able to buy with 2,000. Therefore, I go against the list of 63 companies. I check on the companies that actually be able to qualify. And how do I do that? In shares or stocks, there's something called what do you call the price per share, PPS, price per share. What does the PPS mean? PPS means, for example, let's say, let me just use the exact companies. For example, because they are great companies, we love them, they are Kenyan companies. We have a company called Safaricom, okay? Safaricom price per share depends on when you're watching this video, all right? Let's say the price per share of this Safaricom share is 13 shilling. And by law in Kenya, you're supposed to buy at least minimum of 100,000. But nowadays, you can buy as low as that. But that says let's say you want to pick the language of the minimum, which is 100. So it's usually, if one share of Safaricom is cost 13 shilling, if you multiply that by 100, because you need to buy a minimum of 100, then that one will cost you 1,300. So what? Guess what? With my money, boom, I'm qualified to buy Safaricom shares. I go to another company. Let's say we say a company like, I'm just drawing some, let's say a company like Kengen. Kengen is a Kenya generating, geothermal generating, whatever. Maybe say one share goes for around, let's say 2.5 shilling, 2.5 shilling. Okay, 2.5 shillings. Then if I have to buy a minimum of 100, then it means probably I'm gonna need what? 250 shillings. So even this one, I can even buy like 300 or 400 or even 500 shares. If I multiply by that, probably I'm gonna get that amount of money. Did you get what I've exactly said? So the point is, I run against the companies that we have in existence. You know, that's the PLCs, their price per share, and then so that I can see how many I qualify. But just because I qualified for Kenyan, I qualified for Safaricom, for KPLC, I qualified for whatever the company it is, does not mean I should buy that. So I list and I see, hey, guess what? I have 10 companies, okay? For example, I have 10. Let's say out of my analysis, I've realized that I qualify for 10 companies that I can be able to buy shares with my 2,000. Now, I do further analysis to actually define which companies among the 10 that have actually qualified to buy shares with that amount of money that I have. The first analysis I usually consider is something called the EPS. What is EPS? EPS is called earning per share. When they pay dividends during the end of the year, okay, the fiscal year, when they pay dividends, how much they pay per the share that you own. Okay, for example, you might find the different companies differs in terms of amount of money that they pay at the end of the year as earning per share. For example, you can find a company A, all right, paying say 0.5, let's put it this way, they pay Kenyan shilling 0.5. Okay, meaning to every share that you own of that company called A, they will pay you 0.5 shilling. So you take, let's say maybe you own 100 shares of this company multiplied by 0.5. Therefore, it means you'll be getting, or you will get 50 shilling as your dividend. You get that? I'm just drawing some numbers to explain to you. Obviously, I will have the one that is pays more or has that track record of paying more. How or where do I get that information? I usually go and read something called Financial Times. There's something called Financial Times. Okay, Financial Times just simply a place where you go with your cash, or rather with just to Google Financial Times, then go fix the abbreviation of that company that you want. Actually, this gives you shares not only for Kenya, but any share on earth. You get it on the Financial Times. You go fix, I think it's on the right side. You fix that abbreviation of that company that you want, called the Financial Times, and then that information of that company pops out. How much they pay per share, what is the earning per share, the volume of the traded shares in that company, and what have you, and all those kind of things. By the way, it doesn't have to be Financial Times. There are many other tools that you can use on Google. For example, say you want to Google something like Stanbic shares. Just Google that. You can be able to find some information about that given company so that you know how much they pay per share, that kind of a thing. Okay, now out of my 10 companies, remember we are doing what we call the narrowing down. Out of the 10 companies, I realize maybe let's say 6 companies are actually good to go. Just because they have good shares or earning per share, again, does not qualify them for me to buy their shares. I go further extra and I check something called 52-week range. 52-week range. 52-week range simply means in a period of 52 weeks, that is from week 1 to 52, basically this is 1 year. How does the share capital fluctuate? Not share capital rather, but the price per share fluctuate. How does it fluctuate? Let's say a company in a 52-week range can actually move from, let's say, from 10 shillings all the way to 20 shilling. All right? Or maybe a company can actually move from 10 shillings to, say, 12 shilling. What does that tell you? And maybe let's say, what does it mean? Like, let's say a company moves from 10 shillings all the way to 40 shilling in a period of 52 weeks. Then it means here there is what we call high volatility. Why? Because there is that fluctuation. Either way it can happen. You can buy it at 10, has the potential of reaching 40 shillings. Why? Because that has ever happened within a range of 52 weeks. Therefore, it tells you there is a high volatility. This is where you can even buy shares at 40, boom, they can go back to 10. You've simply lost like 30 shilling out per share. You get what I'm saying? But if you buy a company, and I'm not saying this is not good. It is good. It's amazing. It has the potential. If you buy it at 10, it has the potential of going back to this. Let's say it goes back to 25, and then you sell your shares at 25. You're already on money because that's what we call the capital gain. And for this one, in a 52-week range, let's say for the year 1, year 2, year 3, it plays around this. Therefore, this tells you it has low volatility. It means it only fluctuates by 2 shilling. So if you want to have a huge chunk of cash, boom, you can throw it to this one. If you have that money that you want to sort of a trade in it out and be able to make some, good cash within a period of time, then this is a place to be. But again, you have to make sure that you balance the two so that the gaining here does not cancel or is not cancelled by the loss, maybe from this particular area or something of sort. So you have to really consider that what we call the 52-week range, how those price per share are actually fluctuating within a period of 1 year, so that you know what am I getting myself into, so that at least by the time now I'm making a decision of buying or selling these shares, I am good to go. All right, now after actually dedicating this a 52-week range, guess what happens now? I realize now out of my 6 companies, the 3 companies are actually qualified to buy them. Then I go to an extra step of finding out the track record of that given company. That track record of that given company is obviously something that I've left behind, which is there are some of the companies that do not pay shares or other dividends. So you have to as well consider that. There are some that do, some that do not. Obviously, we are talking the one that pays the dividends, okay? That's the one that I would really recommend. Now, here we are, the track record of that given company. What is the news of this company? And this is where I think the big work is. This is where you actually you follow the companies. How are their performance? Where are they expanding to? What was the last year's, let's say, what do you call it? The profit that they made, how much did they pay for their dividends, what the track record of them paying their dividends in time, do they pay their dividends in time, what number of personnel do they have, what are they planning to expand on, where, you know, in terms of the presence, where they are, the amount of asset that they usually control, again, the kind of, are they movers? Because when you go to, for example, if you go to NSE, that is Nairobi Securities Exchange, they will show you who are the movers, you know, the companies that most of their shares are traded, which is the biggest company listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange or your securities exchange out there, depends on the company or country that you're watching me from. So when you consider all these factors, now you can tell, hey, now, out of the 3 companies that I have one mover. Probably I have another company that is actually has a good track record, you know, people ratings, it's high, has a big asset that they control. This company has been in existence for, let's say, 100 years, 50 years, 30, 50, 70, all those kind of years, and all those kind of things. So when you do all those calculations, that tells you who are the biggest investors in your securities exchange. For example, in Kenya are the foreigners. And by the way, that really hurts me, you know. Probably Kenyans, let me give you a simple trick that you didn't know. You see that Nairobi securities exchange that we have, most of the people who have invested, or okay, let me use a simple language. Most of the people who have bought shares in Kenya are foreigners. And I wonder, what does the government do? It should actually tell people why we should invest on our own companies. And this is the crisis sometimes we face. You find a foreign company will come. I won't mention the company that was there, joined like, I don't know, 5 months ago, and then they have exited the market again. You find some companies outside the Kenya, they actually see the company, for example, that kind of a fluctuation, they do the hedging. There's something called the hedging or hedge funds and what have you. They throw money. For example, immediately after we do the elections, everything is cool. They throw their money there. After a certain period of time, they make a lot of money, and immediately before we go to the elections, they withdraw or they dump their shares, and then the share prices goes all the way. There's no diving, and then after things goes back, then they come again and buy that. So we actually live in a roller coaster kind of an emotions. Why? Because we are not the real people who have invested in these shares. And I don't know why this information is never shared to our beautiful citizens. Even people with 100 shilling, 300, 400 can even buy shares, but people don't even share this information. We buy shares, we support our own companies so that at least we don't experience this roller coaster of emotions of shares going up, going down in a crazy kind of a form. That way we'll be able to safeguard our, economy. That way we can, for example, just look at it. If you're Kenyan, you can understand what I'm talking about. You find before elections, shares are good, but immediately before we do the elections or after the election, shares goes down. You ask yourself, what exactly has it happened? Because most of the people who invest in our stock market are actually foreign people. They cannot be deterred from investing, because you yourself, you can as well invest from their stocks or invest to their stocks or something or sort. But it's good when we invest things and we can be able to grow our companies locally and such kind of things. Can you imagine this? We are the ones who consume the products and the services of these companies, but other different people are the one who benefits from the dividends and the profit that it's like people coming to our country and getting the money and going back. So I don't know whether I'm thinking out loud, but for me, it does not augur well with me. It is good to make sure. For example, let's say I don't know. Let's say you consume a certain product of a certain company. Why don't you own shares of that company? So that money that you give them, they're also entitled to get something out of that money. Think about that. I promised for 15 minutes on this video. I bet we are on the 15 mark. It's a goodbye. But don't forget, if you'd like to get what we call a take through on how to buy shares, go ahead and hit that. I'll take that number of mine from the description of this specific video. My number is always there as well. You can pick that number, shoot me a call. We can have a conversation on money market or even money market fund as well, on shares and what have you. For now, it's a goodbye. For just a cup of coffee break. For now, it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one.